Welcome, everyone. Welcome to day 5, and we're just going to jump right into it. The fifth day, a day of prayer for deceased parents and relatives. It should seem unnecessary to urge you to pray fervently for those to whom you owe so much. Nature, reason, religion all loudly claim your suffrages in their behalf. Hope is alternately the support and torture of the human heart. None have such a short ground for hope as the souls in purgatory, and none at the same time experience so intensely the opposite effects of this potent sentiment. The object of their hope is God Himself, who promises and gives Himself as the recompense of the just. And if the assurance of having their present sufferings so gloriously rewarded imparted to the saints unutterable joy in the midst of trials and adversities, how much more consoled and fortified must not the holy souls feel, even if their prison of dollars, from the thought that God will shortly assuage their sufferings and reward them with unspeakable delights. Why do we not in the trials of life also raise our eyes to heaven and accustom ourselves to bear patiently our crosses, which, if so borne, shall be rewarded with eternal glory in paradise? Hope consoles us in proportion as it is the more assured. Who, then, can express the consolation the holy souls derive from their certainty of possessing God hereafter? They read in the decrees of God that they are the elect of His eternal kingdom. Calling to mind the promises of Jesus Christ and being in possession of His grace, they cannot for a moment doubt that they are to be the co-heirs of His happiness and glory. They consider their deeds of justice and expect with unwavering confidence the crown of immortality with which the Lord, the just judge, shall reward their merits. Their hope is so solidly based on this triple foundation that it not only does not admit of doubt or fear, but has all the force of immediate and absolute possession. But although the suffering souls are thus assured of possessing God, He still defers communicating Himself to them until they have been completely freed from every stain of sin. He wills also that this very delay should increase the ardor of their desires. Thus, on the one hand, the certainty of their hope sustains and fortifies them, while the delay of possession, on the other hand, afflicts them, and those very desires, which are the food and life of their hope, serve to afflict and torture them most keenly. The more exalted the object of their hope, the more painful in proportion is their punishment, and its violence increases while with the intensity of their love. I speak not, says St. Austin, to those that are cold and insensible, but give me a heart that aspires to sovereign good, and it will fill the meaning of my words. One great advantage arising from the thought of purgatory is that it inspires with a spirit of penance and self-denial, for it reminds us that divine justice, though severe, is not blind and never punishes the same fault twice. Since if expiation is made in this world, it will not be required in the next. Knowing that justice so inflexible and unrelenting in purgatory is easily disarmed here on earth, we naturally feel an earnest desire to escape the terrible fire of purgatory, which can only punish sins unexpiated, and consequently we take care to leave few stains to be cleansed away hereafter. God in His infinite goodness affords us the opportunity of paying the debt contracted by a deliberate act by means of a voluntary satisfaction, and only chastises us in the other world because we have not had the courage to punish ourselves in this. Our interest, therefore, lies in forestalling His judgments and justice by self-imposed penances. For however severe they may be, they fall far short of those of purgatory. This thought fills the soul with a holy courage to embrace mortification and penance generously, saying, better settle now my accounts with God, better take advantage of His mercy to satisfy His justice, better pay my debts now while I can do so easily. This is my resolve and firm determination. Another advantage arising from the thought of purgatory is that it renders us more patient and courageous in bearing the trials and sufferings of this life, and teaches us to look upon them as means given us by God in His divine mercy to make up for what is wanting in our penances, and thus escape the terrible expiation of purgatory. Happy are they that understand this truth. Not only will they receive the crosses divine providence sends them with resignation, but even with joy and gratitude, regarding them as signal marks of the goodness of our Lord, as golden coins with which to pay a portion of their debts. No matter what may be the nature and duration of their sufferings, they learn to endure them peacefully, always remembering that thereby they acquire great merit. But, says Fenelon, human nature seeks to escape purgatory both here and hereafter, with this result that it renders useless our satisfaction here below, and we have after death still to enjoy the pains of purgatory. Were we now, like the holy souls, to remain peaceful and patient in the hands of God, we should be purified by the fire of His love. Let us not forget that the trials and sufferings of this life are a real purgatory, and that the soul weighed down by the cross is also truly purified, as are the souls in purgatory, by its cleansing flames. But as we repine and murmur against God by impatience, we only render ourselves more guilty in His sight, and abuse the precious gift of suffering He bestows upon us to expiate sin. Let us then suffer as the saints suffered, as the souls in purgatory suffer, and our sufferings will have the double advantage of purifying us and enabling us to gain merit. The habitual remembrance of purgatory keeps up the fervor of the just, rendering them more watchful over themselves, more attentive in the fulfillment of all their duties towards God, their neighbor, and themselves, more careful in the performance of the most trifling actions, in purifying their intention, and always acting for the greater glory of God. Finally, the thought of purgatory inspires us with charity for the holy souls detained there. The remembrance of their suffering fills us with tender compassion for them, which quickly manifests itself in giving them aid and relief, in praying for them, in offering acts of self-denial in their favor, and making use of all the means at our disposal to relieve them. Their interest became ours in a certain manner. Their sufferings, if I may so speak, become ours. The agony of the separation from God creates within us a holy impatience to open for them the gates of their heavenly country. Thus do we, even unconsciously to ourselves, practice the virtue of charity in the most perfect and heroic degree, and, whilst thinking we are only working for others, enrich ourselves with abundant merits, while paying the debts of the souls to whom we are devoted. We at the same time discharge our own, since charity is the most excellent of all virtues, making up before God for all the rest. Therefore, those who practice it toward the dead, far from losing, gain by it. God in a wonderful manner rewarding those who help His friends. Now I'm going to read a poem. It's called The Waiting Souls. They are waiting for our petitions, silent and calm. Their lips no prayer can utter, no suppliant psalm. We have made them all too weary with long delay. For the souls in their agony, pray, fervently pray, rest in peace. For the souls that hold us dear, let prayers arise. The voice of love is mighty and will pierce the skies. Waste not in selfish weeping one precious day, but speeding thy love to heaven, pray, fervently pray, rest in peace. For the soul, by all forgotten, even its own, by its nearest and its dearest, left all alone, whisper at the profundis, oh, gently lay, arms in some poor one's outstretched palm, pray, fervently pray, rest in peace. For the soul that is nearest heaven, that sees the gate, even now ajar and the light within, and yet must wait, ere the angels come to convoy it in bright array. For the eager soul so near to joy, pray, fervently pray, rest in peace. For the soul that most loved Our Lady, for Our Lady's love, speed with thy supplication to its home above, and our mother in benediction her hand will lay tenderly on thy bowed down head, pray, fervently pray, rest in peace. For the love of the heart of Jesus, they love it too, by all sweet home affections that once they knew. As thou hopest in thy utmost need to find a stay, in the prayers for those who love thee once, pray, fervently pray, rest in peace. There are few souls, even of the just, who directly after this life pass immediately to the eternal joys of heaven. Even the imperfections of the saints have to be cleansed by fire. The following example, related by St. Peter Damian, will serve to prove this. St. Severinus, Archbishop of Cologne, was a prelate of such extraordinary sanctity that God vouchsafed to distinguish him by remarkable miracles. After his death, the saint appeared one day to a canon of Cologne Cathedral in the small branch of the Rhine, in which he stood plunged up to the waist. The canon asked him why he stood there in the water. As on account of his extraordinary sanctity, he ought to be reigning gloriously in heaven. If you wish to know, replied the saint, give me your hand in order that you may understand the pain which I suffer, not by hearing of it, but by touch. Then, having seized his hand, he dipped it gently into the water, though he drew it rapidly out. So great was the heat that he felt from it the flesh fall off scorched, and the bare bones held together by the joints were in great pain. Then the saint said, I did not suffer this great torment for anything more than for having recited the canonical hours hastily and with distraction. For while I was counselor in the emperor's court, having a great deal of business, I did not recite the divine office at proper hours or with devotion. This is my own fault. Then begging the canon to join with him in prayer to obtain the cure for his hand, and beseeching him to obtain his own liberation from such great sufferings by the suffrage of prayers, alms, and masses, he suddenly disappeared, leaving the priest miraculously cured and full of fear of God's judgment. And that, my friend, is the end of day 5. And thank you guys for listening, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.